Brought to you by Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Sulky Threads. Express yourself with Sulky and create with confidence.
Hi, welcome to Quiltmaker's Block Network. I'm Paula Stoddard with Quiltmaker Magazine. Today I'm going to be sharing with you Some Bunny, block number 442. This is a block I designed for Quiltmaker's 100 Blocks Volume 5. For this 12-inch block, you will need 1 background flannel and 4 medium flannels for your block border. You will also need wool for your wool applique patches. The cutting instructions and everything else you need to make this block can be found on your screen. To make this block, you will need to use your bunny applique pattern. You'll need to prepare your wool pieces for fusible applique. The first thing you need to do is trace your applique patches. You'll trace 2 of the gray ears, 2 pink ears, and the face, the eyes, and the nose. Then you need to prepare them for fusible applique. For complete step-by-step instructions, you can see episode number 5, Flowers for You. After you've prepared your fusible applique patches, you'll need to peel the paper off the back of the wool and arrange your applique patches. So you'll start with the head, then you'll arrange the ears, and I like to place everything all at one time before I fuse it down, just to make sure everything's placed correctly. Now when you place the nose, you need to place it clear down at the bottom so that it will be caught in the 1/4 inch seam allowance, so you'll get that little look of him peeking out over the edge. And so after you have placed your applique patches, you can fuse them in place using a hot iron. I like to use a lot of steam, and you can hold your iron down for 5 or 6 seconds to fuse everything in place. After you've fused your applique patches in place, you'll need to finish your block. You'll add your side rectangles and sew those to the center, and then you'll add your top and bottom rectangles and sew those to the rest of your block to complete the block. When you're done, your block will look like this. You can use a blanket stitch to stitch around all of the applique patches. Then you can use a stem stitch to stitch the bunny's whiskers. This is a very versatile block that you can do a lot of fun things with. You can rearrange his ears to get a completely different look. You can arrange them so they're hanging down sideways off the edges of your block. You can make them one up and one down. You can also cross his ears for a completely different look. Another thing you could do is have him peeking out from one corner of your block. So you would place his face, and you'll hide the rest of his face when you sew on these border strips. And you'll have him peeking out from the corner of your block, just like that. And I'm going to show you a quilt that I designed for Quiltmaker's Quilts from Fall 2012. This is a quilt I designed called Peekaboo Bunnies, and in this quilt I made 4 bunnies, and all of them are different with their ears arranged in different directions, and it makes for a very fun, whimsical quilt. This applique pattern, as well as many other applique patterns, can be used in a variety of ways. On this quilt, I had some large corner triangles, so I enlarged the bunny pattern and I made some little paws, and I made them peeking out of this quilt in all 4 corners. This adds a really fun, whimsical touch to this quilt, which otherwise would have had just some big, plain triangle corners. I also made this quilt into an embroidery pattern. I shrunk it down to be about 4 inches, and then I just, with thread, embroidered a stitchery pattern using this same bunny pattern. There's a lot of different things you can do with applique patterns. Some Bunny and 99 other original blocks can be found in Quiltmaker's 100 Blocks Volume 5. Thanks for visiting Quiltmaker's Block Network. See you next time. The first quilt I ever made was actually a table runner. It was made of 3 blocks and had a lot of triangles, and I didn't know anything about triangle squares. I was a self-taught quilter, which meant I absolutely knew nothing. And so I cut all of those triangles out from templates. And then I sewed it all together, and not knowing any better, decided I wanted to machine quilt it. So I decided I was going to machine quilt it, and I did not drop my feed dogs, and so it was really difficult, and my stitches were teeny weeny weeny, and I didn't know any better, so I thought it was wonderful. And then it came time to bind it, and I knew nothing about binding, and so I cut my binding strips 4.5 inches wide and applied my binding. So then when you flip it over to the back side, my binding on the back went about 3 inches on the back of all 4 sides. And it was awesome, and it was ugly, and I loved it. And that is the truth. Totally the truth.